Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on Heroes Rising. What an amazing event we have lined up for you today. Let me introduce you to my co-host, EA Solkovitz. And I posted earlier, he is a superhero. His power, I'm going to let you tell them what it is. And then we have Evan. Evan is another, to me, every one of these people are amazing superheroes. And of course, we have our superwoman, Brigitta. So I love the fact that you guys took time away from saving the world to come and save us. So thank you so much. EA, what do you have to say, my friend?
Well, thank you for having me on your amazing event. And just historically for the listeners, I was blessed to be on Raphael's amazing podcast. And he subsequently reached out to me and said, I'm going to be doing this thing. I'm going to do this event on a regular basis that's going to impact people intergalactically. And would you like to be on this event and co-host? And I said, man, you better believe it. And it's been a blessing ever since. I don't know, what is this, about a 14th, 15th event in there somewhere, I think?
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're right at that number somewhere. And everyone is they just keep getting better and better. So, Raphael, thank you so much for having me on your great show.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let me talk to you about Brigitta. Brigitta, she also was on my show, and so was Evan. But Brigitta, the funniest thing I read about her, and then I met her, is that she's a German, but she's really an American, right? She's a German female business owner that lives in the American dream. This has become her home. She owns not one, but two educational institutions. One is for children. It's the Montessori School in Cleveland. It's Montessori School. I'm sorry, MontessoriCleveland.com. You can all check it out. And then the other one is for adults. It's not just for kids anymore. And it's the center of NLP.com. And why do you think that she has two facilities? Well, kids are innocent, right? By nature. It's the adults around them that help and shape each child grow into who we want them to be. But in reality, they're going to come into being their own. We just have to be there and show them all the right things. And Brigitta, you're doing that. And thank you so much for doing that. Our future depends on you. So keep up the great work. German by birth, American by choice, educator, trade speaker, trainer, design, and CEO by passion. She chose it because of her passion. She serves on the International Coaching Federation board. The most important thing is that Brigitta is a wife and a very, very loving mother. Brigitta, we'd love to hear from you.
Oh boy. Yeah. So get ready. I sure hope that everyone has something to write with and something to write on, because you're going to want to take notes.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Because, when we listen, it's great. And you guys know you can always go back. But at one point, you want to take notes, because what I'm about to give you step by step of how to fully step into your life. And people ask me all the time, thank you, Raphael, for this incredible introduction. And I made the trip all the way from, at the time we lived in Munich. My husband's from the Munich area. I'm from the Stuttgart area in Germany. We traveled all the way through over the transatlantic ocean to a small town in Tennessee. And then 5 years ago, ended up in Atlanta and buying our second business and establishing it. And we're building a big training center right now. But it's all about what Raphael said. It's all about the science of success. So let's peel back some of the layers. Let's take that onion and peel it back and get into the juiciness of it. And I want to start out with, mastering the idea here is mastering life. And I sometimes say mastering life in business or mastering business in life. At the end of the day, it comes down to one person, and that's yourself. You're the one that's in the business. May you be employee, may you be a business owner. When it comes back to your life, you're in charge. You're in charge of how you perceive life, what you do with whatever is coming at you at any given moment, and how you respond to it. So the mastering life, as I put it in air quotation marks, encompasses it all, because we are holistic beings. You know, one of my legacy clients is an OBGYN, and sometimes in the hospital, things happen with babies that are either already born or not born yet. And I say, how do you deal with that kind of life situations? Do you leave them at the hospital? And he says, I can't. I'm a one being, and it would be nice for me to shut off that part. So it's all a matter of what can you do regularly to check in and take the steps that you desire to take to have the business, the life, the family, the relationships, the fill in the blanks, whatever you want. I'm going to give you step by steps. So step number 1 is know what you want, know your outcome. That's step number 1. And I'm going to give you a few questions that you are going to want to write down so you can then answer them later on. Now, when I do this whole process, it takes a good hour. So know that when you're writing it down or when you go back to the recording, you can still capture it and then go through those steps. So first thing, when you know your outcome, state it in a positive. Know what you want. I wish to accomplish, or I wish to change. So write it down. What is it that you wish to accomplish? What is it that you wish to change? What is it that you wish to aim for? But it must be spelled out in a positive, and it must be spelled out specifically. You know, some people come to me, and when we have a discovery call, they say, oh, I don't want to be broke anymore, or, oh, I don't want to be heavy anymore, or I don't want to be this or that anymore. Okay, great. I'm glad that you know what you don't want. Now let's look at what you do want, and then get really, really clear on what is it that you want. So step number 1. Within that first step, also write out the benefit of you accomplishing what you wrote down. So if you wish to accomplish something, what is the benefit to you to accomplish that? Or the benefit to your family, or to your community, or to your business? And then in the next step, write down what would be the detriment if you decided to not accomplish it. There is a choice in that. So detriment to you if you decided to not accomplish it. Right? I'm not just saying detriment for you to not accomplish it, but there's a decision in there. There's now that I made you aware of it, there's a cognizant decision in there of you not deciding to accomplish it. So then step number 2 is take intentional action. I'm not just saying take action and just, see what sticks. Some people go with the approach of the spaghetti noodles. Let's just throw them at the wall and see what sticks. No, the key here is to be intentional and really thinking it through. What is it that I need to do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, in order to get to that outcome that I wish to accomplish or change? So take intentional actions and write them out, and even better, put them in your calendar and put a reminder on it. Today I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to do that, day after I'm going to do this, and really put a clear time stamp on it when you are taking these intentional action steps. You also then, within that intentional action step, want to write down what would stop you from doing that. Not writing out your goals, not writing out your action steps, allowing other things that you perceive or think are more important to get in the way. So think about what are the things that would stop you from accomplishing this. Then step number 3, be aware of your internal state and your emotions. Be aware of your internal state and your emotions. What's going on right in here between your ears? Because if you want a positive outcome, if you're aiming for, let's say, releasing 10 pounds, making $1,000 more next month, whatever it is that you want to do, if you go in it with a mindset, with a scarcity mindset, or a mindset of, oh, I can't do that, or, oh, it's too hard, or whatever your mindset might be, you want to check in and see if the thoughts that you're thinking and the feelings that you're feeling are actually in alignment with what you're aiming for. So check in and be aware of your mental state and emotions. And if they are not in alignment with what you want to create, you have the opportunity and possibility to adapt it and change the thoughts and the feelings. Step number 4, have behavioral flexibility. Now, this is a mouthful. What does that mean, Brigitta? Have behavioral flexibility, right? If I go with a behavior of everything is too hard, right? That's the thought. And I'm just going to go in with, I don't want to do this, right? You're probably not going to get what you desire. So being more flexible and seeing the choices and the opportunities that you have in order to take those action steps that you wrote down, step number 2, to take them, to get very deliberate and intentional, that will help you to have that behavioral flexibility. Because if you go in with the same behavior that you had in the past and you're seeing of how it is not working, that's in taking an inventory and seeing what other behavior you might want to have in order to get to the results that you desire. So having the behavioral flexibility, and often that is not a physical flexibility, that is more of a mindset flexibility of what other options do I have. The other day I was invited to speak on a podcast, and I said over, under, around, and through, whatever it takes, I will do. So if over doesn't work, I'll go under. If under doesn't work, I'll go around. If around doesn't work, I'll go through. That's behavioral flexibility. And within that, think about what other things do you need or must you have in order to achieve, in order to get to the outcome that you desire. And that is a resource. I'm going to come to that in a second. Step number 5, operate from a physiology and a psychology of excellence. Now, pay attention. I'm not saying perfectionism. I'm saying excellence. So physiology is everything that is happening within your body. Psychology is everything that's happening up in here. So always, if you've ever read the book, The 4 Agreements, one of my favorite books, it is small, but it is mighty. And one of the 4 agreements states, always do your best with all of the resources that you have. Sorry, that was opportunity calling, and I'm going to put it on hold for a second. So the operating from always doing your best will allow you to look at the possibilities and the opportunities that are out there, and not looking at it's got to be perfect, because you are not in charge of your environment always. You are not in charge of other people. So when we have a perception of perfectionism, we want to be in control of everything and everyone. But clearly, we can't be in control of everything and everyone. There's only one person that we're in control of, and that is myself. That is yourself, right? So when you come from a place of excellence, you're actually, and now I'm tapping into step number 6, you're actually tapping into being most resourceful. So step number 6 is be most resourceful with everything that you have available. That means that tomorrow you might have different resources than you have today. But that also means that you're taking and you're using what is and what you have in any given moment, without thinking, but I should, but I could, and this and that. And now you're in your, I call it the outer circle of influence. Now you're in someone else's circle of influence, and that's not in your control. So be most resourceful with what you have. So that was step number 6. And then I have one last question. Actually, I have 2 last questions for you. Which 3 steps are you taking this week that will get you to that outcome that you wrote down at the very beginning? Which 3 steps are you taking this week If you are releasing 10 pounds, how often are you going to go work out? How often are you going to go to kickboxing? How often are you going to do your exercises? How much water are you drinking? What are you eating? What are you not eating? What are you doing? What are you not doing? How much are you sleeping? If you are aiming for another $1,000 in your bank account by next month, how many people are you calling? Are you following up with the people that you already had a conversation with? If you're looking at building better relationships, what are you feeding yourself with books and podcasts and other great information that will allow you to be a better communicator so you can build those relationships? And then the last step, write down by when you will accomplish what you wrote down in step number 1. Put that in your calendar. And then the question is how you're going to celebrate that. Because celebrations are key. If you do not celebrate, no matter how big or small the win is, we're not going to judge any wins by how big or small they are. A lot of people do that. Don't do that. How are you going to celebrate? Because the celebration locks it in, anchors it in, and creates momentum. Because when you give yourself a kudos, hey, job well done. I didn't get to the 10 pounds released, but I did get to 6 or 5 or 8. That's worth a celebration, right? So be very clear and write this down. How are you going to celebrate? And then actually celebrate it. Put it out there, put it on social media, tag me on it. I want to celebrate you. I want to celebrate with you. I want to anchor it in with you, what you are creating. So these are my 6 steps to life mastery. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Raphael. You're muted.
Wow, that was just incredible. So, I love it. Obviously, I took my notes. Celebrating the big wins, right? But the little wins too, because what if you have a bottle of wine and you save it for that big win, and then you have the big win and you open it and it's sour? It's no good, right? So yeah, little wins are important. Thank you so much. Powerful, powerful. If you guys did not take notes, it's okay, because you're going to rewatch this again and you get a chance to actually reach out to Brigitta and she will help you. She is just, like I said, superwoman. She is powerful, people. So please reach out to her. We put her links. I know at one time it didn't work because it was attached to another word, but now it's clear. You guys can go there. She has a free thing for you guys. Brigitta, would you mind telling him what that free thing is?
Yeah, I got a free gift for you. And those are called the success laws, the laws that will lead you. And, if you know a thing or two about laws, they're not would be nice to have. No, these are some reminders of you. These are the things that you want to do in order to get to that success. However you define success, may it be success in, again, releasing weight, in making money, in having those beautiful, meaningful relationships. These are the laws to success, and that is my gift to you.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow. I am just beyond thrilled with everyone who's around me. Let me tell you about EA, my co-host. My God, he's not your cut of the mill coach or mentor or just any superhero. His superhero powers, I'm going to tell you, is to give. He's such a giver. He's had rooms of 50 presidents of companies pay him $5,000 for a weekend to learn from him. 50 of them paying him $5,000 for a weekend. That's $250,000 on a weekend. I did the math because I wanted to know, man, who doesn't want to earn $250,000 on a weekend? He did it for 2 years. You know how much he made in 2 years? $6 million. You know how many weekends that entailed? 72 days. He worked 72 days for $6 million. Raise your hand if you want to work only 72 days and make $6 million. Well, let me tell you, EA has done it. He was very young when he first earned his first $1 million. he is just beyond incredible. When he learned from his mentor, Sam, he took all those lessons, he's put them together. Not only did he learn them, but he is now sharing them with people all over the world. He is also the first person to have developed a profits first scoring for companies based on what his mentor taught him. He also interviewed 1,000 millionaires, 1,000 millionaires. Imagine all the advice you can get from people like that. Well, he took that advice and he obviously is sharing it with people. We're going to put up a link for him, and I want you to go ahead. By the way, he told me he's not going to do this much longer. He's not going to give out this free advice because his time is crazy busy. I was supposed to have a call with him on Wednesday. He's like, oh, I'm crazy busy. Could we make it next week? And I know he's changing the world. And I said, absolutely. And anything I can do to help him, I'm there. EA, would you mind sharing with us what your superpower is and everything else you're going to do? I know you're going to talk about community, but come on, you got this. Let's go for it.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. And again, as I've thanked you so many times on having me on your great show and reaching out to me from your podcast. And it's such a blessing to be able to help so many people and bless so many people with great information, and so thank you so much. And what I wanted to really share with everyone today, again, these lessons were all taught to me. I was what you call intelligently ignorant. I was too dumb to realize I couldn't do it, and I listened to someone who had done it. And the first thing I want to share, just as a quick note on mentoring, in my world, if you don't have a mentor, we have a word for that. We call it naive. That's the word we use. Because if you don't have a mentor, you are wasting so much valuable time when there are so many mentors that willingly and want to help you. Big difference between a coach and a mentor. Coach can teach you a skill. If you're going to learn how to post on LinkedIn, a coach can teach you that. Mentor is a different kind of relationship. It's much more confidential, much more intimate. It's not about what you're doing. It's about why are you doing that? And, my relationship with my mentor, Sam Robbins, changed my life and put together those burnt out wires. And what I'd like to share with everyone today is the transformation I've seen in the last 2 years about something called, and it's a word called community. There's a word I'll spell for you. It's spelled D-I-E-T. The word means diet, right? That's the word. Now, years ago, if you went to a meeting with 2 or 3 people, that meeting was actually called a diet. You went to a diet. That's what it was called. Then years later, if you received a stipend or a regular allowance, the allowance was called a diet, spelled D-I-E-T. Now, in my lifetime, the word diet meant eating habits. It was the way I ate every day. That was my daily eating habits, my daily diet. Today, if you say diet, it means weight loss. Same word, spelled the same way, 4 totally different meanings over time. I submit to you in the last 2 years, we have seen the word community have the same thing to take place. See if this rings true for our viewers. Someone says, join our community. Be a part of our community. We're all of the same mind. We think the same. And you join, and within 6 hours later, they're trying to sell you everything under the sun, right? That's not a community. That's a prospect list. That's a customer list. Why are you calling it a community? You're doing a bait and switch on me, right? Call it what it is. Call it a customer list. If I'm interested in your products, fine, I'll stay and I'll learn. But if not, I'm not interested. But don't bait and switch me by calling it a community when it's not a community, right? So identify those as what we call taker communities because they're really designed to take something from you, whether it be money, finances, time, whatever. By contrast, we have what we refer to as a giver community. It is the polar opposite. And I'm going to share with you, because of our interest of time, where everyone can get for absolutely free an elongated version of what I'm going to go through in more of a bullet point kind of thing. Years ago, there was an excellent book called Napoleon, it's Think and Grow Rich. It's still out, written by Napoleon Hill. He does a masterful job of explaining what the mastermind is. Now, when he started talking about that, it was novel. It was something new. So he explains what it is. He does not explain how to do it. He explains what it is, right? And because of that, and I'm sure all of our panelists can agree, I've seen times where people have come together and they said, you know what, let's form a mastermind group. And they get together and they have a good reason to get together. And then 2 or 3 months later, it just sort of dissipates. It sort of falls apart and everyone sort of goes their separate way and it just sort of dissipates. And that was always a curiosity to me. You know, they got together for a great reason. And why did it fall apart, or why did it dissipate and just sort of dissolve into oblivion, right? So we began to look at Givers University, why does that happen? And we put together specific steps on why this takes place. So first, I'm going to share with your listeners, this is where we can go. This is where you can go to get all this information elongated, absolutely free. Go to our YouTube channel. It's Givers University, one word, no spaces. Just go to YouTube, type in Givers University as one word. The top playlist is How to Form Your Own Givers Community. We use the word junto, Junto. It's interchangeable with the word community. A junto basically is a group of people that get together for a common interest or purpose. That's a junto. So we use junto and community as interchangeable references. Our top playlist is How to Form Your Own Giver Junto. It's 21 2-minute clips, walking everyone all the way through how do you form the mastermind group you've always wanted on steroids. Just that simple, right? The first clip is, what's the difference between a giver community and a taker community? And we walk them all the way through, including the 7 steps I'm going to hit real quick here. And then even once your giver community is formed, what do you do then? All right. So we even have the last 4 episodes are on the agenda. This is what you do. This is what you cover in your meetings. This is why you do this. This is so powerful because in a world today, to impact the listeners, we have businesses opening and closing faster than ever before in history. We have products being antiquated overnight by brand new products. When all that's done, what do we have left? Our relationships. And those people that we surround ourselves with that will have such a profound, almost unspoken reference to all aspects of our life, whether it be business, social, or family. So we teach people, how do you build the right people around you? So a few interviews back on a podcast, the guy says, well, I love this giver-taker stuff, and I read this book, and it said I should have 5 good people around me. I said, you should. You should have 5 good people around you. Question, which 5? And all of a sudden he's staring at me with this blank look. I said, do you see my point? No one's teaching you which 5. So we teach people how to discern. We don't judge people. We love everybody. And we teach people how to separate the person who we love from their deeds, which we may not love. And by observing their deeds, we then begin to decide, should I bring someone closer? Or should I begin respectfully distancing myself? Respectfully, not rude or nasty, because of what I see them doing, not because of what they're saying. So I'm going to hit a real quick here, a few slides, and I'm going to do a little screen share here of walking through the 7 steps of forming your own Givers community, or as we say, Givers Junto. So it's going to be just a few slides, and it'll load up here. It's loading right now. And I'm going to hit this real quick so you can listen to us multiple times, see the event multiple times. Go to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. And look at those 21 2-minute clips. They will enlighten you not only on how to form the right kind of mastermind group around you, but what are the glues that you need to have in place so that it stays in place? What are the expectational agreements that everyone should hold themselves accountable to before the group is formed? We walk through step by step in 2-minute clips, all of that. Here's the 7 steps in forming a Givers Junto or Givers community. It spells the word discern, D-I-S-C-E-R-N. Each letter is a step. So this is actually the first clip you'll see on our YouTube channel. This is the thumbnail for it, how to form your giver community. And in this clip, it's 2 minutes. What's the difference between a giver community and taker community? We learn that, and then we move forward, right? So the next one starts with D. First letter in discern is D. The first thing you need to do in forming your own Givers Junto or community is you have to decide, who do you want in it? And how do you do that? How do you decide which 5, right? We actually teach people how to do that step by step. We don't judge and label people as givers. We don't do that. We identify giver deeds. We don't label people as takers. We identify taker deeds. There's a big difference between that, right? So we identify people. Simply saying at Givers University, we say the following. Your talk talks, your walk talks, but your walk is louder than your talk talks. So watch what they do, and we teach this observation skill. So the D in discern is decide. Who do you want to have in your givers community? Second one, the second part, the I, it stands for invitation. You need to invite them, all right? How do you invite them to your forthcoming mastermind group you're forming or your Junto community? How do you invite them? What's the proper way to do it? What are the components with that? The next component or letter is S, seed. This is critical. The S in seed is to be able to have put together in advance expectational agreements that all people that are part of the mastermind, the Junto, or the community all hold themselves accountable to. This is critical. Most groups don't even do something like this. So there needs to be agreements. These are the things we hold ourselves accountable to if you want to be a part of this group. If not, God bless you. We love you. It's just not a good fit for you. These are things we all agree to up front that we're going to do. This is a critical part of the glue. We even give templates on the YouTube on what should be an example of some of these agreements you need to have in place. Right? Number 5 is C, convene. Get together on a regular basis, weekly, bi-weekly. Ben Franklin had a Junto. He called it the Leather Apron Club, and they got together every Friday for 2 hours every Friday. And they talked about politics, morals, ethics, business. By the way, interestingly enough, our very Declaration of Independence could arguably be traced back to the conversations that took place at Ben Franklin's Junto on Friday nights. No one could tell me 12 people can't have a lot of power. So C is for convene on a regular basis. The next one is give it a name. Ben Franklin called his Junto the Leather Apron Club. Henry Ford had a Junto. He called it the Four Vagabonds. Consisted of Henry Ford, Harvey Firestone, Thomas Edison, and John Burroughs, right? Give it a name. When you give it a name, the camaraderie kicks in of the group. They are a part of this group. Establish it. E is for establish. The next is for rotate. R in discern is for rotate. Have a different chairperson in charge of the meeting every single meeting. Rotate, never the same person. Always rotate from meeting to meeting, different chairperson. And the last is N. N stands for numbers. Seed other Juntos, not so you can take from them, but so that you can contribute resources and help others and help them with life in their businesses. So DISCERN. All of this, these 7 I just went through, by the way, are in the middle of those 21 2-minute clips on our YouTube channel. Go there, you'll see it all, right? So we love to be able to share this because we know that the people we surround ourselves with will have a huge, huge impact on our life. I remember even as a kid, if you said something the same time someone else did, we used to have a saying, it was, "Owe me a Coke." You know, you would say something as one of your friends would say it at the exact same instant you said it, and you'd say, "Owe me a Coke," right? But the point was, we get so in tune with each other, and we don't realize how these other people are tuning our radio frequencies and stations at the same time. And what we can do in order to help make sure we have the right people around us in business and socially, and this even works in family. Not to label, not to judge, but to observe their deeds. We teach an observation skill of discernment. What do you look for specifically? So you can get all that at giversuniversity.com. Join our newsletter, and we send out one newsletter once a week. We don't blow up anyone's email. We're not spammers. So every Thursday, we send out a 5-minute email to everyone to give them a new tool in their toolbox. So that's what I wanted to cover with everyone is, let's see, stop share. Done. All right. And there is the amazing Raphael. So we hope that you benefit. So many people want to and desire to put together a mastermind group, but Napoleon didn't say how to do it. He just said what it was. So we walk you through very granular, step by step. This is what you do it. Here's how you do it. Here's why you do it. And here's a template. And it's all free. We love to put it out there because we know that that will impact you in all aspects of your life. So now that brings me to my ability to be able to introduce to you Evan Mestman. Now, let me tell you a little phrase about Evan that sort of sums up how he helps CEOs and business owners. The saying goes, "You're so busy taking care of the business of the king, you're not taking care of the king." And you see, what happens is that people in their life don't realize that they're so busy doing the busy work and doing all the other things in life, they're not taking care of the king, which in this instance would be themselves in their own life and the different things that they can do that would help them. So Evan helps CEOs thrive. He helps them be able to, through his coaching, he helps them with their thinking, their eating, their living, their healthy choices, and helps them understand it's okay to take care of the king too. You know, one of the best ways we can do, one of the best people we can also give to is give to yourself. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And everyone always thinks of giving, and I think of giving to everyone else, and that's great, and we should, but there's also great things we can give to ourselves. And Evan teaches executives how to do that, how to put together those burnt out wires in health, wellness, mindset. How do you do that? So, Evan, thank you so much for being on our Heroes Rising show, and help share with our listeners how it's okay to take care of the king.
Well, thanks so much for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Sifu Raphael, for having me on your podcast and introducing me to this incredible group. I'm so honored and humbled to be among these heroes. So let's begin by asking you a question. If you could have anyone in the world, anyone who's living or not, sit on your shoulder and whisper sage advice to you, just when you needed it, who would it be? I don't know whether the chat function works on YouTube or if there's comments there, but if you can, please share, because I'd be really curious to know, could it be Nelson Mandela? Maybe Winston Churchill? Maybe it's your grandfather. I love Simon Sinek, he's alive, and I love or Stephen Covey, who is not and has influenced me, or Brene Brown. But the real question is, you just thought about having that person sitting on your shoulder, then why is it that you're sitting listening to this inner critic who's whispering lies in your ear every day? Why is that? That inner critic is your judge. It is something that's there to protect you. Because if you think about it, we are really hardwired for survival, that fight or flight response. And with that, it's a very complicated system, but the issue is when we're in our primal state, that primal state's that fight or flight, we're very laser focused, but we're not able to be in our power state, because you can't be in your primal and power state at the same time. And if the inner critic is whispering in your ear these lies, and how do you know they're whispering lies? Because you're getting negative feelings. You're feeling frustrated. You're feeling fearful. You're feeling overwhelmed. You're feeling things that are negative. And that's how you know that that judge, which is the main saboteur or that main inner critic, is lying to you. A lot of people that I work with, many executives will say, well, wait a second, that judge is my friend. If I didn't have that judge, I wouldn't be able to get my team and get them to do what they need to do. And that's even more of a reason to accept that that judge is lying to you, because it's not necessary to be able to be so critical of yourself or of everyone around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers. So how do we quiet the inner critic? Well, let's start at the beginning. We're all born, right, with these incredible superpowers. I heard Raphael talking about everybody having these superpowers, right? Well, you are uniquely you. And when you were born, just pull out a picture of you when you were an infant, that wonderful beaming smile. If you hadn't had the inner critic start yet, typically not. The first 5 years though, for me, my father loved my father, but my father was pretty critical. If I was going to do something with him, which he might do we did these airplanes. We used to make these model airplanes. They were beautiful. Well, I was completely messy. My last name is Mestman for a reason. Messy Man was one of my nicknames, along with Heavy Evie, but we'll get to that. And I would get the glue everywhere. And he's like, no, here, give it to me. And he would let me do it. You're not doing it right. And I would look at it and go, I'm not doing it good enough. I'm not good enough. That was the script that was in my head. And my father didn't mean that, but that was the impression I had. And it wasn't until I was an adult and I listened to a good friend of his share with me, because it was more than just that. That was the beginning of remembering that my father was constantly critical. But it wasn't until about a year before my father died, and a good friend shared with me how proud he was of me. Suddenly, reframing happened, and I started to listen and understand as an adult what my father had given me when I was younger wasn't being critical. It was just he was looking through his lens. His inner critic was criticizing me. And all of us need to learn that in the beginning, we were born noble beings. We were born with an incredible capacity to have these incredible superpowers. Mine is to see all the possibilities and to help you find them. That's my superpower. It's always been. But let's talk about these inner critics, because if you allow these inner critics, and they're typically there to protect you, they're there because you hear something in the world, you experience something, and they're there to justify it. I worked in a hospital. I'm a nutritionist, and I worked in a hospital in critical care, and there was a child who was crying for his mom. And I was called there to help with his nutrition. He was burned over all of his body. And I asked the nurse, I said, what happened? And remember, he's calling for his mother. Well, the mother punished him by pouring boiling water all over him. Wow. And I said, well, why is he calling for his mom? I just couldn't understand it. And the nurse explained that he can't accept that his mother was that much of a monster. It had to have been, there was something wrong with him, that he deserved it. And that is really the strongest inner critic and the lies that it speaks to you. So let's quickly go through the different, what I would call saboteurs, the judge being the main one, and the other 9 accomplices. They're motivated by certain things. So if your motivation is threatened, let's say your motivation is threatened by acceptance, then you're going to have the pleaser, the victim, or the hyperachiever. You just won, and now it's like, oh, wait a second, I'm on to the next thing. You can never enjoy just having a good win. If you're motivated by independence, so that means your independence is threatened. You're going to hear that inner voice being the controller, or you trying to control everything. The stickler, right? The stickler, the one who says, maybe if it's the reason why they didn't like my presentation was because of the colors I used, or that was the way you were dressed that day. The avoider, the one who puts his head in the sand. And then if you're motivated by security, meaning you're threatened by your own security, you're restless, you're hyper vigilant, can never find a way to say, hey, this is good enough, right? The best thing to do when you have something that's truly worth doing, it's worth doing poorly initially. The hypervigilant can never settle for that. It has to be perfect. And then there's the hyperrational. Think of Spock, sees everything through logic, no emotion. So, oh yeah, you're raising your hand. I thought, oh, time's up. Your coping mechanism. How do you cope? Well, Everybody uses something different, but it could be food is one of the major sources of immediate gratification. And that's one of the things that I help people do, is to have a healthier relationship with food, to figure out how to quiet the inner critic. And when you do quiet that inner critic, you'll get a better night's sleep. You'll have more energy. You're going to lose weight, let it go, as Brigitta said, for good. You're going to develop a new attitude towards eating and thinking and living. And then it's going to help you live the life that you choose, because it's all about one choice at a time. So imagine this: if you could release those super hidden powers by listening to, instead of that inner critic, that sage, that wonderful human noble being that you were when you were born. I can learn, I can improve, I can practice. You take those three things, that's technique, behavior, and attitude, and you combine those three. Where the three of those intersect is success. And I use my method of what's called the B3 way of coaching, which B is transformation. It's the become. How do you become the butterfly when you're a caterpillar? Well, the butterfly said, you have to be wanting to fly so badly you're willing to give up being a caterpillar. Then there's the be strong. Be strong is that grit. As Brigitta said, the resilience. Okay, being able to bend and sway and be resilient. And the last one, most important to me, is the gratitude changes everything. It's to be grateful. Gratitude helps you live in the precious present instead of fearful for the future or regretful of the past. And that is really that is my program. That is my presentation. And I wanted to share with you that I have a gift for you also. It's called my Jumpstart program, and it's offered in the links. I also have a quiz that you can take on identifying if you have an inner critic in there, which we all do. Okay. So, and you're welcome to join my Facebook group. I believe I have my Facebook group listed there too, where you'll learn and get tips on how to live the B3 way to wellness. Thanks. It's back to you.
Wow. You know, and we didn't get into it, but Heavy Evie. And I have a new group for you. It's called Heavy Evie and the Boys. So, listen, amazing stuff. I mean, I am so humbled by the fact that every one of you decided to join me on this journey that I am. Evan, we're neighbors and we still haven't gone out to lunch. We need to change that, right? So we need to make that happen. Obviously, we're going to be eating healthy. One of the things that really impacts the way we do everything is through our mind. And thank you for sharing that with everybody. You know, what can I say? I mean, I am so fortunate to have all of you, and definitely EA, besides being super funny and you know, just an amazing human being. And, you know, I see that cape everywhere I go, and I turn around and there you are. Yeah, you're just flying that overhead. I always look up. There he is.
Thank you so much, Raphael. And Evan, great points. Thank you so much. You know, really specifics and details, which I appreciate, which obviously both of our guests have done today. And it's certainly an honor, as it always is, to introduce Raphael. And, you know, Raphael really changes lives, and when people come to him, and I've seen this happen, and also stories he's shared with me when we've talked, that, you know, sometimes people come to him and they're viewing things in a certain way, and they viewed it that way for a long time, and Raphael helps them change the way they view things. And it's sort of like this one gentleman who wanted to find a great hunting dog, and he wanted to find a dog that was very unusual. So lo and behold, he found a dog that could actually walk on water. And he thought, oh, this is really going to be an interesting hunting dog. And he had one of his friends who always, no matter what, his friend looked for and saw the worst in everything. Have you ever, any of you have a friend like that or knew a person like that? You know, the kind of person that brightens up a room by leaving it. You know, that kind of person. So well, this man had a dog, and this dog was amazing. He thought, you know what, I'm going to invite my friend who can never find anything good to say about anything whatsoever and just see what he says about this amazing dog that knows how to walk on water. So they went out hunting, and the man goes and some birds went over, and he shot one of the birds, and it fell in the water, and the dog ran over on top of the lake and got the bird and brought it back. But the guy didn't say a word about it, didn't say a word. Later on, same thing again. Caught another bird. The dog ran across the water, got the bird, and brought it back. They did it 3 times. And the guy who complained about everything and always found the worst and everything didn't say a word about it. So they're driving home in the car later on, and the guy who owned the dog said, yeah, I just have to broach the subject and see what the story is here. He hasn't said a word about my dog literally walking on water, running across the water every time to fetch a bird. So he finally broached the subject. He said, so do you see anything unusual about my bird? Or about my dog? And he said, well, yeah, he's got a big problem. He obviously doesn't know how to swim. So you know, there's got to be some people that no matter what, their habits are so used to looking at that aspect of their life. And Raphael is one of those people who says, didn't you see him run across the water? What part of that did you miss? And if you watch Raphael work out with his very consistent and persistent and habit of working out every single morning as he posts on LinkedIn, you can see those workouts. I mean, and he not only does he do an excellent job working out, but he's sharing so much with people on consistency. And I even hear them put in the post, I can see them read where they say, wow, that's really great. I appreciate your consistency. Clearly you have a habit. They reference his habits. And that's what Raphael's going to be speaking on, the habits that lead your life. Because there are habits that don't lead our lives, and there are habits that lead our lives. And Raphael truly is an expert's expert when it comes to having and developing the skills of habits that lead your life. He has done it with himself. He's a great example, and he does it with his students on an ongoing basis. So Raphael, please share with those that are viewing habits that lead your life.
Thank you so much, EA. I will be sending out the check this afternoon. So, you know, one of the things is everyone on this panel and everyone that I have spoken to on my coaching call has had habits. It's the habits that make us who we are. Your habits lead your life. So I'd like to share a little presentation with you guys, if you guys don't mind. And when we think about every habit that we have, it really changes everything. So let me just give me a second. So even the habit of making a PowerPoint can be a good thing if you get it right? So, you know, think about the habit of, what can I even say? Brushing your teeth. Why is that important? Well, the dental industry decided to make that a habit that we can all get into, because it only went to show everyone, let me just move things around, start from here. It went to show everyone that if you have a good habit, you will always have better results. Bad habits are going to create bad results. So let me move on here and show you guys what a habit can actually do for you. So talking about habits, right? Habits create a life worth living or worth regretting, or habits can also show up in what we look like. You know, if your hygiene is off, if your health is off, if your business is off, it's all based on habits. And for example, here's a habit. This gentleman probably started with having a beer, maybe when he was a teenager, and then had one too many. So he didn't see it as a problem, but his habit caused him a problem, a physical problem, and maybe even a different type of problem. And then sometimes we have interference in our lives where we're trying to create something and we are trying to get into a good habit, whether it's a fitness habit or something like this. And people come to you and what they're going to say, you don't need to do that. You're good already. You don't need to get better at that. That's for, you're not good enough. You can't do that. So interference. Look at this lady. She's running, but she's allowing interference to cause her to look back instead of looking where she's going. So interference will always be there. No matter what, someone is going to try to stop you from your success. Change. When we think about change, everything we do on a daily basis should be better than what we did yesterday. Our change will reflect how we show up in the world, right? So change, sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes there's hard work. Sometimes we're even confused ourselves with the change. But the more we do it, the better we get, the more educated we get, the easier things come. And then we have action. So what are your actions going to help you do with your habits? When we take a habit, and by the way, habits are the hardest things to break for people. Just ask anybody who smokes. Ask anybody who is on drugs to break that habit like that. Doesn't happen. So you have to actually take action and really, really get right down to it and take aggressive action sometimes in order to change a habit that is putting you down. So let's think about your goals. Every goal you have is going to have obstacles, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts. So for example, this person playing chess, what is their goal? Their goal is checkmate, but there's going to be things, obstacles in the way. And if they, in their mind, played forward a couple of moves, a good chess player plays 4 moves ahead, they know what's going to happen. So getting into a habit of not letting things stop you will help you. There's always going to be someone, like I talked about interference, they're going to be there to try to stop you from reaching your goal. Checkmate. So success is what you make of it. What do you do? Now, look, this young lady looks successful, but the question is, will she be? Where will she be a year, 2, 3, 4 years from that picture? Will she be successful? Her habits. What if she decides to go to a job and start hanging out with the wrong people and never progresses because she stopped learning? So our habit should always be to continue moving forward. So I'm going to take that a little bit of a different thing, and I call it code, right? You got to live by your own code. What is code? Code is, we all have a smartphone, right? With our smartphone, we have to do updates. Otherwise, certain things are not working as well as they should be. So here it is. Who writes your code? Let me ask you a question. Out of this picture, who writes his code, right? Who writes her code? Because yes, she's looking at him because he's her ATM, but he's looking at her as that's his youth. So he's willing to pay the price. Everyone has a price. What price are you willing to pay? So let's talk about the output. All the output, whatever messages you're putting out there. You know, if you go hang out with your friends every day after work, or do you go home to your family? Do you go home and study? Do you go home so that you don't have to be in a job that you don't like? What do you do every day that's going to be your output? And then the principles or law, the moral standards that you live by. We all have to live in a world, in a community that has its own laws, but what are the laws we impose on ourselves, right? And then the self-talk. And Evan talked about it. EA talked about it. Brigitta talked about it. What is your self-talk? Is it positive? Is it negative? And it's that monster that is always, and Evan asked about it, who would you like to have hit it sitting on your shoulder, or somebody that you can have a conversation with who's maybe dead or not available to you? Here's the thing that you could do. You could pick up a book by someone famous and kind of get what they're coming from, or someone who passed away. And books are amazing. Podcasts, you guys talked about it. It's a great way to move on. So let's think about our timeline. Who writes your code, right? So as an infant, toddler, our caretakers, our parents, they wrote our code for us. But then slowly we start to discover our own code. We do things as a toddler, as a baby, that we kind of create. And then we go to school. And then our code gets corrected, right? And then what do we do as teenagers, guys? You were all teenagers. Brigitta, you were a teenager, right? Evan, EA, you all broke the code. And we all did. I did it. We all did it because we wanted to find our own way. We knew everything. Talk to any teenager. They know everything, right? And then they become a young adult. After they broke the code, they try to figure things out. They try to figure out the code to live a better life, to come into society. And then we become an adult. What happens? Now we have to conform to the codes of other people because we are working for other people until we start to create our future code. What's our code? Who writes your current code today? Who does that for you now? Who told you what you needed to do today? Did you or someone else? So let's think of our growth, right? We should all have a checklist. How do we grow? And here's the thing I always tell people. Ask yourself, what am I doing today that's going to impact my world and the world I live in? We all live in our own little worlds, but what world do you live in that you can impact other people? And then implement a plan of action. And then take action, right? And then here's the thing, right? We need to reflect on the good and the bad of our actions. We can't say, oh, that was a great win and move on. We got to learn even from the greatest wins we've had. And Brigitta said it, celebrate. We need to celebrate the wins, but let's not wait for the big win. Celebrate each little win. Every day is a win. I'm alive. I did it. And then plan for your tomorrow. If you don't plan your tomorrow, someone else will. And then begin with a single step, a little step. That is the most important thing. And you'll get there, but little steps, one step at a time. Brigitta, you talked about how to activate a plan for success. You talked about sleep. Evan, every one of us talked about hydration, healthy eating, movement. Oh my God, that is my medicine. Movement is my medicine. And then here's the thing, you have to study our brain, everything above it, sleep, hydration, healthy eating, movement. That's all going to help you think better. It's going to help you study better. And then plan and take action. What's next for you? Take the plunge. Where will you land? You don't know unless you take the plunge. Set small goals. Go for it. You can do it. And then here's the biggest thing that you can do. Get an accountability partner. They are the ones that are going to tell you the truth. Don't find somebody who agrees with you. That's not an accountability partner. That's somebody who's a yes person. Don't get them. Get somebody who's going to tell you the truth, even if it hurts. And then, EA, you talked about it. Get a coach. If you don't have a coach, you don't have someone who can see the 360 degrees. I don't even know what my back of my head looks like unless I take a mirror and start looking. But any one of you can go behind me and tell me what's back there, right? Hopefully, I'm okay, right? So who am I? I'm hungry. People, I am hungry. I asked these people on my panel because I'm hungry for their knowledge. I sought them out. I asked them. Don't be afraid to ask, right? No quitting mentality. Some people quit when they're right at the precipice, when they're about to reach their true potential. Don't quit. Keep going, no matter what. And how can I help? Listen, I and everyone on my panel, they're not new. They've done it. They're in the trenches day in, day out. If you guys want to reach out to me, I would be more than helpful to you. I love talking to new people. Look at the people I have on this panel. Everyone, I am inspired by everyone I meet, whether they're 5 years old or 95 years old. Everyone has a great story. So you can reach me at Coach and Cole PC at my Gmail, or set up an appointment. We can talk, and it'd be my pleasure to share with you guys.
Also,
I
Raphael,
probably went over. I apologize.
we put actually in the chat, we put your link there for Max Fitness a couple of times, so people can easily access you and learn from the amazing Raphael. And by the way, if you don't follow him on or not connected to him on LinkedIn, do it. I mean, you'll just enjoy his regular workouts, and he shows you what you can do in anywhere from 3 minutes to 9 minutes. And I don't think I haven't seen any over 10 minutes. I think they've all been under 10. And he just every single day he's posting that, getting out there, making it happen. So thank you everyone that watched. Also, May 6th, we have another event coming up at 12 o'clock Eastern. One of our speakers is Eric Degata, and he's going to be talking about how to optimize recovery using readiness and dynamic programming. So that's May 6th at 12 o'clock Eastern time. So make sure you set your reminder on YouTube. You'll be seeing the thumbnail come up pretty soon. And thank you for all of our speakers for sharing such wonderful information with everyone. And for those that are listening, remember, you get to decide. We all have the God-given right of freedom of choice. And that freedom of choice includes the thoughts we think. It includes the actions that we have. And as they say, when you sow a thought, you reap an action. When you sow an action, you reap a habit. When you sow a habit, you reap a character. When you sow a character, you reap a destiny. So remember, your thoughts are the beginning of your destiny.
Do me a favor, if you guys can unmic, I'd love to hear some, last words of advice. What a great crew I've put together. Thank you guys so much for even seeing my vision of great people, just having a sharing and stuff. So I appreciate you all. Go for it. Evan, Brigitta, what are your thoughts?
Evan, go ahead.
Listen, I always love the opportunity to talk and share and collaborate, because I think the power comes from really the synergy of everybody putting their thoughts and energy together. And this was no different. I learned so much from Brigitta, from you, Sifu, Raphael, and EA. This was such a great venue, and I always love to share. So I'm very grateful for you including me. And I hope that people will learn to quiet their inner critic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll share our mantra that we have here at the center. What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you articulate, you generate. And what you imagine, you create. Thank you for having me.
Wow. Powerful, powerful. Thank you. Everybody, please follow these amazing speakers. Every one of them is an amazing giver. Each one, we've put their links in. They're willing to give you guys stuff for nothing. And it's not junk. So for those of you who have junk in your cupboards, throw them out and take time to click on the links and come find these amazing people. Thank you, everybody. Have an amazing day. And I'm going to let EA sound off. Go for it, EA.
Everyone have a fantastic, and as we say at Givers University, just don't have a good day. Have your best day ever.
Yes. Wow, that was great.